Welcome to Plant-Based Pregnancy and Parenting. Tonight, we're continuing our conversation about vitamins and supplements, and we're going to talk about Thanksgiving because that is coming up. So let me introduce you to Dr. Deborah Shapiro. She is a plant-based OBGYN and certified in lifestyle medicine, and you can connect with her on her website on anewviewoffood.com. And I am Jeanneschumacher, co-founder of the Pregnancy Advantage. You can find out lots of information and resources to living plant-based and toxic-free at my website at simplyplantbased.net. And Dr. Shapiro and I, we created the Pregnancy Advantage to help women get their bodies pregnant ready, or if you're having trouble conceiving, especially when you go down that in vitro fertilization rabbit hole, and do visit our website, pregnancyadvantage.net. Good evening, Dr. Shapiro.
Hey, hi, Jean. Hi, good to see you. Good to be here. How is everybody? How are you?
I'm well. And yourself?
Very good. Very well. Yes, absolutely. I had a gigantic salad for lunch with hummus and beans and some mixed grains that I had made. And I had some vinegar on it, lemon vinegar, and it just made me feel, I put a few spiced walnuts on it, and I was just in heaven. It was great. It just makes me feel so good to eat that way. I know I like to eat more cold. You like to eat more warm food, right?
I do. Without question. I like a hot meal. I do. And especially now I'm on the East Coast, Deborah's on the West Coast, and we got the country covered, but it's getting colder here. And so, I'm starting to bundle up. You can see my turtleneck and my little sweater and my cardigan because we haven't turned the heat on yet. So interesting. So it's a little chilly inside the house yet. And, I like a warm meal, especially when I get cold. I'm not going to lie. So yeah, I do like it. Soups are a big thing for me now. I mean, coming into fall. So
right. So we're going to be talking about food, but I think we just wanted this is like a 3-part series to get through sort of the nutrients of concern for pregnancy, because the most important thing for a plant-based eater is to make sure that they've got their bases covered so that you don't have any deficiencies and you don't pass on any deficiencies to your child. Because the worst thing for a vegan to do is to be unhealthy. Don't be an unhealthy vegan, because it sort of gives everyone a bad name. Then you start to hear things from Europe, like this child was damaged because the parents weren't giving it B12 and all this. So it's very important to do this well. And even though our Academy of Nutrition and Dietetics has said that a well-planned plant-based pregnancy or even a vegan pregnancy is fine for all stages of life, including pregnancy and postpartum and breastfeeding, think about well-planned. It's not eating chips and vegan dip, right? It really is a well-planned plant-based diet. So that I just want to put it out there. It's important to be a beacon of health, I think. And I know there are a lot of vegans for the animals, but this is not vegan pregnancy and parenting, right?
Nope, it is plant-based.
Right. So our group is not just, and it's these subtle differences. We're not just about avoiding animal products, but we certainly are for the animals and for the environment. But we're even leaning a little bit more into eating whole plant foods for health, to optimize health, because that's really important. That being said, I think we were up to where we had done iodine, and iron needs really do go up in pregnancy, and even higher when you're pregnant, but lower when you're breastfeeding significantly. So when you're preconceptually, you need 18 milligrams of iron. It goes down to 9 when you're breastfeeding, but it goes up to 27 milligrams a day. And so we do check people to make sure that you're not getting anemic. There is this dilutional anemia that happens when you are pregnant, usually in the 2nd or 3rd trimester, because your blood volume increases. So the amount of hemoglobin sort of goes down proportionally. You have a 20% increase in volume. So we often we do check people at about 28 weeks or 26 weeks when you do your glucose test. And often we find women are a little bit anemic and they do need some extra iron. There should be some iron in your prenatal vitamins. Might want some iron in your prenatals. But once you're breastfeeding, you may not need that. Although I have found that a lot of women, because they have lost some blood during the delivery, that it's not a bad idea to continue taking it afterwards for a while, for 6 weeks, just to build yourself back up. That's iron. So we get iron from certain leafy greens like spinach And we certainly get iron from black beans. So beans and greens are good sources of iron, blackstrap molasses, but we sometimes do need a little extra. So you may need a little extra. That's something you can find in your prenatal vitamins. After iron.
While you're thinking about that, I'm just going to make a comment about if you need to get some iron and you don't want it to continue taking or supplements after the baby's born, one of the things you can do is cook in a cast iron pan, because the food will absorb the iron and you will get a natural source of that, especially if you're cooking something acidic like tomatoes that will really leach out the iron. But if you're not anemic and you don't need to build it up, then I would stay away from those cast iron pans.
Right. Good point. I always tell people when they are anemic that anything you cook, even if you cook pancakes in a cast iron pan, you're going to get some more elemental iron. So absolutely. And you're absolutely right also about having a source of vitamin C, a source of ascorbic acid on your spinach, or putting tomato sauce on your spinach, because you'll get more iron absorption with vitamin C. Just a fact. All right. It's just like you can get some more fat soluble vitamins A, E, D, and K absorbed when you have a small source of fat. It doesn't mean that you have to pour olive oil on everything, but you can just have, a little bit of avocado or some nuts and seeds, and you'll absorb more of your fat soluble vitamins. I think after iron, if we already talked about folate or B9, we talked about B vitamins. I think really there could just be zinc that's sort of left, unless anybody comes up with anything and wants to say. But the things that I'm concerned about, zinc, we do need a little bit more zinc when you're pregnant. You're going to need 11 milligrams. You need 8 milligrams when you're not pregnant, and even a little bit more, 12 milligrams when you're breastfeeding. But I'm a little nervous about taking large amounts of zinc. There might be a little bit of zinc in your prenatal vitamins, just a few milligrams, and that's great. But you can get your zinc from nuts and seeds. And so that's why we always do recommend, I would have a variety of nuts and seeds, and you can look up there's a wonderful book. I think we always talk about it, but Becoming Vegan, Brenda Davis's book, Becoming Vegan, and Vicente Molina's also, and they have wonderful tables of all these different foods and how much of these different micronutrients are in them. So you can find out what you would really need, in terms of taking, some pumpkin seeds or some sunflower seeds, or to get the zinc. And then you just look for prenatal vitamins that have a little bit of zinc. Make sure also, if you're taking vitamins, that you're not getting aluminum. Some vitamins have aluminum. Really interesting. I don't know why, but you really want to stay away from that, because that's a heavy metal that can accumulate in your brain. And especially if you have parents, something to think about, parents or grandparents who are taking those 1-a-day vitamins, just check them out and make sure they don't have aluminum, because that's something that is involved in dementia. Heavy metal.
Right. Well, and it's not just things like aluminum, but it's things like the top 3 are iron, copper, and zinc. But I can already hear Deborah going, but wait a minute, those are micronutrients and we need those. Yes, we do. But if we're taking supplements or taking things like, for a while, there was a big zinc craze, you got to sniffle. Oh, zinc, take zinc tablets. No, don't do that, please. Because that zinc, and these are metals, they're going to accumulate in your body and they're going to start to build up. And zinc in particular is highly, highly oxidative. And so you're going to get, what's going to happen is your body, to protect yourself, is going to build this layer of fat around it. And it becomes one of these like toxic fat dumps in your body. And what happens is you get these beta amyloid plaques that are building in your brain. And that's what's the foundation of Alzheimer's. Is that these plaques are starting to interfere with the memory. In the beginning, you can get the memory back, like, okay, I'm going to go, what was the name of that person? Oh, yes, it's Deborah. And then, down the road, you're starting to block that. And you're like, oh, what was the name of that? What was the name of that? Oh, yeah, Deborah. And then eventually there's so many blockages that you cannot get the memory back, and you just can't remember it all. So,
you know what I'm thinking? Actually, now that I'm thinking about it, I don't think it is aluminum that are in those vitamins. I think it's copper. And I think that you're right. You just jogged my memory. I think it's really that you have to worry that your parents and grandparents are using multivitamins that have copper, because they don't need it. You also get it in all kinds of other foods, and you need such a tiny amount of that you really don't. So copper. It's not copper. It's not, I mean, it's
Well,
copper.
aluminum is in some of those things. They
Is
use
it
it as a
really?
base. They use it as a base, and aluminum is in like things like baking powder,
Yeah,
and stuff like that. So you really need to be careful because they're sneaky about it.
yeah.
And even just like things like deodorants, this makes me crazy because there's ones called, I think, like Crystal, or it has a name Crystal or something like that in it. And on the back, and then on the front, they say, no aluminum chlorohydrate, no parabens, no this, no that, no that. And on the back, the first ingredient is usually potassium alum, and that is short for potassium aluminum silicate. And you're like, what? Yes, that's what it is. And in parentheses, after potassium alum, they usually write mineral salts. And I had a girlfriend who came over. She had such a huge rash under her armpit that her armpit was on fire. It looked like it was on fire. It was so highly irritated and red and inflamed. And my first question was, what are you using for deodorant? And she put, oh, no, I got this at Mrs. Green's, which is a local, health food store. And I said, let's start with that conversation. Let's start with that right there. Just because you get it at a Whole Food store, or a health food store, it doesn't mean they usually have better stuff, but not always is it going to be great or good for you. And so I looked on the back, I looked on it and I said, you do know this has aluminum in it? And she said, no, it doesn't. It says right here. I said, no, let's be clear. It says no aluminum chlorohydrate, which is one of the main ingredients in most deodorants. And I said, right, it's right here. And she was hysterical. She was so upset about this. And that's one of the things they do is they hide these chemicals like aluminum in products like deodorant. So you always want to get a deodorant, and you never want a deodorant with / antiperspirant. That's just chemicals clogging your pores. So stop that. Just
And
deodorant.
And the aluminum ones, they're particularly dangerous for us after we shave, because that's when you've really have damaged the cells and you can allow more of this aluminum to be absorbed. Actually, Gregor did a whole thing on that recently about deodorants or antiperspirants and breast cancer. And it really has to do with whether you're using it right after you shave. And I used to use that stuff like Mitchin and all that stuff, but I don't anymore. But the thing about zinc is interesting, is a lot of people now with the virus are talking about taking extra zinc.
Right.
And I don't know. I think you need enough zinc, but I don't think you need to overload on things like that. We're really all about the pregnancy advantage. It's all about optimizing your health, not taking massive doses of anything. So we're very, we're sort of cautious about that. But we do want you to have enough. Well, now let's talk about Thanksgiving.
Oh my God. I know, right? I love my Thanksgiving is my absolute, it's my go-to holiday. Love it. Because it's the food. It's the food. We don't have turkey as our centerpiece, but what do you substitute for centerpiece? I'm so glad you asked, Deborah.
What do you do for Thanksgiving?
As a main dish, you bring it out and everybody just oohs and ahs. And, one year I cut up butternut squash and cut that in half and kind of hollowed it out and served it in boats, the butternut squash boats. Another year I did acorn squash. Another year I did little small pumpkins and carved those out and took out all the pumpkin flesh and then served it in that. And that was, I think, the best. It was absolutely delicious.
Are we talking about like a stuffed?
Yeah. So you make a stuffing and you could use, and I just created this brand new dish, which would be perfect for stuffing into like a pumpkin or whatever.
A kabocha squash, my favorite squash, a kabocha squash. So good.
But the acorn squash is like nice and round and it makes a great individual serving. So I like that. The acorn squash, I think that works really, really well for Thanksgiving.
Absolutely. We brought those. We brought stuffed squashes for Thanksgiving to our parents.
So I just came up with this new dish that I'm going to be serving at Thanksgiving. And it's called a walnut berry rice squash. Spectacular dish. So I started off with one onion, right? And then I took one of those boxes of pre-cut up squash, you can get, because I honestly hate cutting up squash. I do. I'm not gonna, especially the butternut. It's really hard, and it's like, why? When I could just buy a box of pre-cut up. So then I took my food processor and I put the chunks in, and I finely shredded it. Okay, so I dry sauteed the onion, put the butternut squash in, and ran it through the food processor. And then I added a little bit of like vegetable, like a cup of low sodium vegetable broth. And I had pre-toasted cumin seeds which just brings out really brings out the flavor in the cumin seeds. Then I added some coriander. Then I added 1 cup of dried cranberries. I mean, I let the butternut squash cook for a little bit, like maybe 8 minutes or so, just enough to get it tender. And because it was shredded, it cooked very quickly. Okay. So then I added all the rest of the things, the cranberries, and I added frozen pomegranate seeds because I have a big bag of frozen pomegranate seeds, which are just amazing in terms of antioxidants and all the phytonutrients that it contains. It's just incredible. And so I added that just before I was getting ready to serve it. Because it just takes a minute to defrost those, and you just want enough to just not dry up, but thaw out the pomegranate seeds. So I added the cranberries, pomegranate seeds, a cup of chopped walnuts, and then 3 cups of pre-cooked brown rice. And I mixed that all together. Oh, that is delicious. And you can use that as a base for stuffing like the acorn squash, and just top it with, a couple of brown, walnuts, like half walnut pieces on top, just to give it a nice presentation. So, that's a nice way to do that. What are some of your favorite dishes at Thanksgiving?
Well, I have to say that it's not my favorite holiday, but mostly because I would go to, my in-laws who I adore, but they were not vegan. And so it wasn't until last year, thank the pandemic for this, I finally got to have my vegan Thanksgiving. I love big salads. As I said, I love soups. Like there's some beautiful pumpkin or sweet potato soups. We've had the stuffed squash. Do you make muffins? Like
I make it's called the harvest cornbread. Oh my gosh. That is absolutely delicious. And I have to make sure I get when we bring it to the family and stuff like that, I have to make sure I put a couple pieces aside because everybody scarfs it down, And then of course, mashed potatoes, gravy is to me, and I have a fabulous gravy recipe that the secret ingredient is I use a Bordeaux wine. And that just adds such a rich flavor to the mushrooms. Glazed carrots is another favorite dish. And I like sometimes if I don't have that centerpiece, I'll make a mushroom seitan roast, kind of thing, so that you have something to, as a centerpiece. But I also love, I have this orange cranberry zest sauce. Oh, delicious. Absolutely delicious. How about for dessert? What's for dessert?
I have made vegan pies that I have brought to my in-laws that I was very happy with. I love sweet potato pie or pumpkin pie. And so these can definitely be done plant-based. And I have made these things and I've been very happy with them. But I definitely have a little bit of, I've been hurt. I've been hurt over the years. Just not accepted as the vegan of the group. And there's a little bit of pain involved, but I'm happy to have my own Thanksgiving and to just celebrate in my own way the fruits of fall, right? And the foods that I know will make me feel good.
Exactly. But I think too, over the years, I spent like 2 days in the kitchen cooking, and bringing a whole plant-based Thanksgiving feast. And I brought it and then I'd put it out on the table and share it. And I always get the grand inquisition. So what's in that? What's the ingredients? No one ever asks anybody else, what their dish has or what the ingredients is. So over the years, I stopped doing that. I cook at home because I love the Thanksgiving foods. So I'll cook at home. And then here's how we do it, because we don't ever deviate from being plant-based. And it's really difficult. Navigating the holidays is a tough row to hoe, without question. So what we do is I make 2 big dishes, with they're the glass Pyrex dish. And so after I've cooked all the stuff, then I take a scoop of this and a scoop of that, and I make a big plate of it in the glass dish. And then I'll make 2 of them, one for my husband, one for myself. And then, so we have our food. Okay. Then I usually bring a salad because everybody can eat a salad. No one asks me what the ingredients are. And then they can bring out their dressings. And I always bring an Italian dressing that I've made, something like that. So if anybody wants to use that, whatever. So so I have a salad, and I usually bring some kind of hors d'oeuvre because my family goes crazy. So what I'll do is I'll bring like the barbecue cauliflower wings. Oh, and everybody goes crazy over those. So they like those a lot. So I'll bring usually that, and I have something that I can eat that I don't feel guilty about. And I'm not tempted because I have something for me to eat. So then I have my salad, and then I have our main dishes. So as soon as we get to the house, what I do is I use the mini Hot Logic, because they have what's the 9x13, which fits the two glass dishes that are Pyrex perfectly. So as soon as we get to the house, I'll plug in mine someplace out of the way, from the babies, the children, the family and stuff like that. And then when it's time to eat, then I just unplug it, zip it up, and give one dish to my husband, one dish to me, and I've got food. Because then I don't have to worry about eating whatever. And then the other thing that I do is a chocolate peanut butter pie. They know what it is. And I brought it so many times that everybody just goes, oh, she brought it again. It is without question the hit for dessert. That's kind of how, over the years I've evolved to doing it, because you're right. I would make and go to all this effort and then no one would touch it, or they went for the other things or the other dishes, and it was kind of like this competition almost. And I think you're right. So I gave up trying to do that, or trying to even let them taste how wonderful this food is. I gave up. So I bring my dishes, enough for me. I bring a salad, so I'm contributing, and then I bring the hors d'oeuvre and then a dessert. So something that I can have, because there's so much food. It's ridiculous. It just is. And so and the other thing that I do, the strategy that I do, because I am tempted, because I am a food addict and there is no ifs, ands, or buts. And so, if I have food that I could have, then I'm not tempted to go and eat the other things, especially potato chips. Potato chips are just my number one, if I see them, I'm going to eat them. And so they don't come into my house. I don't buy them. I don't, but if I'm walking and all of a sudden, oh, look, there's potato chips.
That's fun.
So if I have something that I can eat that is delicious, like the barbecue cauliflower wings, I choose that over the potato chips any day. So the other thing that I do is, on our way over there, I literally am eating. And usually it's an hour to an hour and a half car ride to my neighbors or families or wherever we're going. It's usually quite a ways away. And so I'm eating carrots, I'm eating celery, I'm eating, things that are going to, the roasted chickpeas and stuff like that. So by the time I get to my family's house, literally the food is up to here. I walk in and it's like, oh my God, I can't eat another bite. And that is the whole point. Because if I'm full, I'm not, that inner raccoon is not coming out, because it will.
It's good to know yourself. I don't have that. And where I go, there are often, for other holidays, there's always a platter of, of snap peas or, carrots or something that I can nosh on. But, you have, as you say, you just have this, it's difficult to be face to face with crunchy, salty, fried, no matter what it is. And you don't want to have that. Right. I'm sure that resonates with a lot of people who are watching. And so I think we'll talk about this again next week, right? Because we have another couple of weeks before Thanksgiving. But people should know that your recipes on your website are fabulous. Well, so really, they should go to Simply Plant-Based, right? Is that where they would find
simplyplantbased.net, and there's cooking videos to show you how to cook. But I wanted to point out, because in the Pregnancy Advantage, that is one of the things we really, really stress is cooking whole food, plant-based, and you get access when you join the Pregnancy Advantage. You get access to all the recipes. Literally, there are hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of recipes you're not going to find any other place. Like the one that I was just talking about, the walnut berry rice squash. I just created that. You're not going to find it any other place. Okay. So, in the Pregnancy Advantage, we want women to get their bodies pregnant ready. Or if you're having trouble conceiving, especially before you choose or go into the in vitro fertilization. I just know a woman who literally spent 2 years, $250,000 on in vitro fertilization. They do not talk about the hidden costs. Most of it is not covered by insurance. So I just want to say that our program is a lot better than that, than injecting yourself with massive quantities of drugs ongoing. So just want to
Especially
point
if
that
you're
out.
young, especially if you're young and you're having problems. Certainly, if you're 44 or something, then yeah, don't delay. But if you're young and you've got some time, then, and certainly if you know that you have hypertension or diabetes or high
Right.
cholesterol, let's get things better and under control before you get pregnant, so you don't pass on any difficulties to your child, and also don't have any more complications during pregnancy. So you'll have a healthier child and a better pregnancy if you're not suffering before.
Well, and it's not just during the pregnancy, but because I've seen the results in the classroom, as a classroom teacher for over 35 years, I see it directly in the classroom. So, I mean, from issues, ongoing chronic problems our children are dealing with that they shouldn't be. You should be at the peak of your health. And I see it all the time. In my lifetime, I've seen autism that I never saw an autistic child until the 1990s. And now, according to the CDC, it's 1 out of 54. And that has changed because of the chemicals and the foods and the toxins that we're being exposed to. So, Deborah, always a pleasure talking to you.
Yes,
I've learned something from you every time.
I do from you. This chocolate peanut butter pie sounds very intriguing.
Ooh, yes,
Remember
ma'am. Yeah, no calories there. Yeah.
There's lots of wonderful food to enjoy. Don't feel like you're missing out. Have the Thanksgiving that you want to have, whether you bring your own food or whether you eat before or however you do it, or whether you just have your second Thanksgiving the next day, which I have also done. Enjoy the day, because it is a fun day just to celebrate the family, but also the wonderful
Make it
food.
about family. Don't make it about the food. Minimize that and enjoy the family, because honestly, a lot of family won't be here next year, your grandparents and whatever, so celebrate those people that are still in your life and enjoy the family. So, Deborah, we are going to continue talking about Thanksgiving recipes because it's one of my favorite holidays. So we'll talk about it next week.
All right.
So check in. We go live Thursdays at 8:00 on the Plant-Based Pregnancy and Parenting Facebook group. So join us there. And if you have questions, do post it and we will try and answer them. So,
Absolutely.
all right.
Thanks
a lot, Deborah.
Bye-bye. Thank you, Jean. Bye-bye. Take care.